Lucas Bergvall. This one's interesting because I've been watching him for quite some time, even before he came to Tottenham back when he was still in Sweden. You could kind of tell that he was something there. You know, he's quite tall, got good feet, calm on the ball, comfortable receiving under pressure. And when Spurs got him ahead of clubs like Barcelona, it did feel like they had signed one of the more exciting young midfielders in Europe. But now, reportedly, he wants to leave, and that changes the conversation completely because this is not a player who has failed. This is not a player who looks out of place technically. This is a 20-year-old midfielder who probably looks at Tottenham, looks at the minutes, looks at the midfielders they might bring in and thinks, where do I exactly fit? So today we're going to take a look at Bergvall properly, not just the transfer story, not just the hype, but the actual player. What type of midfielder is he? What does he do well? What does he still need to improve? And if he does leave Tottenham, why could another club look at him and think, yeah, there is some serious talent to develop? So Bergvall, 20 years of age, Swedish international. He's around 1.87 meters tall and, of course, plays currently for Tottenham. Positionally, he is mainly a central midfielder, but this is where it gets a little interesting. He is not just a basic central midfielder. He has played, of course, there. He's played as an attacking midfielder as well, and he's played a little bit deeper as a defensive midfielder, and at times, he's even been used in wider midfield roles. So straight away, you are looking at a player with flexibility, not just winger flexibility, not striker flexibility, midfield flexibility. He can play in different zones because he has the technical base to receive in traffic. That is probably the biggest thing with Bergvall. He does not look scared of the ball. Some young midfielders get the ball and instantly want to get rid of it. Bergvall is very different. He wants touches, he wants to receive, he wants to turn, he wants to feel pressure, then manipulate it. That is why I've always found him quite an interesting player, and because of the raw numbers this season, they're not big, they're not outrageous. You know, in the Premier League, he's only scored 1 goal, 3 assists in under 1,000 minutes. So this is not one of those cases where the numbers are screaming superstar, but the profile is what makes you pay attention. You know, someone who is quite tall, technical, press resistant, capable of carrying the ball, comfortable between midfield lines. And as I mentioned before, he's still only 20 years of age. That is why the situation at Tottenham feels a little bit weird for me, because he looks like a player who, of course, needs minutes, not just 5 minutes here or 10 minutes there, not being moved around because the team is short somewhere. Of course, we know Tottenham have had injury problems. He does need a run of games. He needs rhythm. And if he's not going to get that at Spurs, then, of course, you can understand why he might potentially look elsewhere. On to the interesting part, of course, of the video, and that is, what type of a midfielder is he, his playing style? And of course, most people probably look at him, look at his size, and just assume, if you've never seen him play, that he must be this physical midfielder. He looks strong, he's got the long strides, for example. So instantly you might just think of a box to runner. And yeah, of course, he's got some of that in his game, but I actually think his biggest strength is not just his running, it's what he does before he runs. The receiving, the body shape, the half turn, the way he protects the ball. That, for me, is where Bergvall looks a little bit different. When he receives under pressure, he has this calmness where he almost invites the challenge. He lets the defender come close, then he shifts the ball, turns out, and suddenly the entire picture changes. And for me, that is a proper midfield trait, because at the top level, midfielders don't always get time. You receive with someone behind you, someone pressing from the side, someone blocking the forward pass, and in that moment, you either panic or you solve the problem. And Bergvall, for me, is a player who can solve problems. That is why his technical ability is so interesting, because it's not flashy in the kind of usual YouTube compilation way. He's not, doing stepovers for no reason. He's not playing Hollywood passes every 2 seconds, but he does have that ability to receive, adjust, and keep the move alive. And sometimes that is more valuable than people realize, because when a midfielder can turn under pressure, the whole team can just breathe. The centre-backs have an option, the full-backs can push higher, the forwards can start making runs, and, the opposition press suddenly has a problem. That is one side of his game. The other side is the carrying. Bergvall is not lightning quick over 5 yards, but once he opens his stride, he can move. He can drive through the midfield, he can carry the ball away from pressure, and he can move the team up the pitch without needing to force a pass. That is important because some midfielders only progress the ball by passing. Some only progress it by dribbling. Best midfielders can do both. Now, Bergvall, of course, is still developing, but you can see the idea. Receive, turn, carry, commit an opponent, then release. That is why I would call him more of a connector. Not a pure number 6, not a pure number 10, not a pure runner, just a connector. He connects build up to attack. He connects deeper areas to the final third. He can be used in midfield rotations, and he can move the ball through pressure. Now, his passing is interesting as well because he's not just a safe passer. He can play the simple ball, but he also has that technique to open his body and hit diags. He can clip passes into the channel. He can punch passes into advanced players. When he gets into slightly higher areas, he can find the final third pass. But this is where we need to be, of course, balanced as always, because the numbers also show why he is still developing. In the Premier League this season, his forward passing and progressive passing numbers, they weren't outstanding. So while the technique is there, the impact is still not consistent enough. That could be because of role, because of minutes, because of rhythm, but it's still something to mention. If he wants to become a top-level midfielder, he can't just look clean in possession. He has to impose himself. He has to demand the ball. He has to progress, play more consistently. And he has to turn good touches into actual control of games. And that, for me, I think is probably the next step because right now, there is a talented player in there, but the authority is still developing, and that's normal. He's 20. Midfield is one of the hardest positions on the pitch. You know, you're responsible for receiving under pressure, defending transitions, tracking runners, progressing the ball, keeping tempo, breaking lines, and not losing it in stupid areas. And all the while, you're doing this for a team who are really, really struggling last season, especially with those injuries, style of play, different managers. So, I don't think we should expect him to be the finished article. But what I like is that he already has the tools that are, for me, hard to teach. You can teach experience, you can teach better positioning, you can teach when to release the ball. But that ability to receive under pressure and look comfortable, that's natural. And Bergvall has it. Out of possession, he's also quite interesting. He's not a pure destroyer, which is the buzzword of the year. He's not someone I would describe as a classic ball-winning midfielder, but he has enough bite. He presses, he tracks, he covers ground, and because of his frame, you can imagine him being a lot stronger in duels as he gets older. Right now, he still looks like a young midfielder physically. You can see the body still developing, but once he adds more strength and experience, those duels should improve. The biggest issue for me is role definition. Like, what is he long-term? Is he a 6? I don't know. Is he an 8? Probably. Is he a 10? Maybe different systems, but not as his main role. For me, his best future role is a technical number 8. I think someone who can play in the midfield 3, someone who can receive on the half turn, carry the ball, link play, press, and, arrive in advanced areas when needed. That is where I think he makes the most sense. If you ask him to sit as a lone 6 and control everything, I think that might be too much too soon. And if you push him too high and ask him to be a pure creator, I don't think you get the best version either. But, as a number 8 with a proper 6 behind him and runners ahead of him, that could be interesting in the future because he has the size, the technique, and the mobility to become a very useful modern midfielder. And this is why the potential exit from Spurs for me is quite fascinating because sometimes a young player just needs the right club at the right time. Tottenham might still rate him, of course they might, but if they're bringing in more experienced midfielders, players like a Tonali, and if De Zerbi wants different profiles straight away, Bergvall could easily become the talented player who does not quite get the pathway, and that would be a shame because there is a player there. Not perfect, not complete, but definitely a player there. So, final verdict from me. Listen, look, I like Bergvall. I liked him when he was still in Sweden, to be honest with you. And I like the idea of Tottenham signing him at the time because I felt that they could potentially develop him and maybe, he wouldn't be so much in the spotlight. Tottenham aren't one of the best clubs out there. They're not really one of the biggest clubs out there either. You know, yes, in England they are, but just in a general sense, they're not really. So I thought maybe you could just kind of develop your football, you know, over there. But I get it, especially if they're looking at players like Tonali, as I mentioned before, and various other midfielders. I can understand the frustration. You know, 20 years of age, he's probably thinking he needs football, he needs starts, he needs a manager who gives him a clear role, and he needs a team where he can make mistakes, learn, and just keep playing anyway, because the profile is interesting enough. He's tall, he's technically secure, he can receive under pressure, he can carry the ball, he can play in different midfield zones, and he has that calmness that, you know, you kind of want from a midfielder. But the next step is going to be the impact. More authority, more progression, more consistency, more control over games. And, you know, that's what separates a talented midfielder from, you know, a top midfielder. So listen, we'll see what kind of happens throughout the summer. We'll see if he does get that move. What type of a team would he be looking to, you know, go to? And if the right club obviously gets him, gives him the minutes and builds his confidence, I'm not going to be shocked if Tottenham fans look back one day and think, maybe we should have given him more of a chance, potentially. But listen, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Would you want to sign Bergvall? If you do, are you going to give him the game time? Is he just coming there to just be a squad option? If so, I don't really feel like that's the right club for you. I think he needs to go to a club where he's going to start week in, week out. But listen, let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section. Stay blessed, keep the same energy. I'll catch you guys soon. Peace.